And you're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Still to come on our program. Kashmir, a flashpoint for India and Pakistan. What could ease tensions? We'll ask our panelists about that crucial question right after this break. Come back. You're still watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Heavy shelling continued on Monday morning in Kashmir, the disputed area that both India and Pakistan claim. Retaliatory attacks have been taking place since dozens of Indian paramilitary troopers were killed in a suicide attack last month. New Delhi blamed a terrorist group for the attack. Could tensions between the nuclear-armed neighbors get out of hand? Take a look.
In the mountainous region of Kashmir, Indian and Pakistani troops launched heavy shelling against each other on Monday. But the skirmish is already a de-escalation from a week ago, when many worried that India and Pakistan would go to war. A suicide attack that killed more than 40 Indian paramilitary personnel on February 14th drew an outcry for revenge in India. New Delhi decided to take action on the alleged group responsible, Jaish-e-Mohammad,
of the Jaish-e-Mohammad
in northwest Pakistan. For the first time since 1971, Indian warplanes crossed the border and carried out airstrikes in Pakistan last Tuesday. The next day, the Pakistan Army said it shot down 2 Indian fighter jets along the line of control and captured an Indian pilot. As tensions came to a head, the newly elected Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan called for diplomatic solutions.
To Indian government, I want to say that can we afford the miscalculations with the weapons you and we have?
Late Friday, in a gesture of peace, Pakistan returned the captured pilot to India. Abhinandan Vartaman was greeted with a hero's welcome. But celebration is far from the minds of Kashmir residents. The number of soldiers and civilians killed is rising. For those who escaped death, a life of refuge in temporary camps awaits. They are paying the price for the decades-long conflict that has torn their homeland.
For more on India-Pakistan tensions, we're joining our Beijing studio He Wenping, professor at the West Asia and Africa Studies Institute of Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Welcome, ma'am. Also joining us in Islamabad from Pakistan, Imtiaz Gul, Executive Director of the Center for Research and Security Studies. And also in New Delhi, India, Professor Madham Nalapat, the UNESCO Peace Chair and Director of Geopolitics and International Relations Department at the University of Manipur. I want to welcome the three of you. Before we begin our discussion/debate, I want to make sure that everybody has one goal. That is, how can we make sure there can be peace in the region? Do we agree about that? If you agree, raise your hand. I agree.
Of course, I agree.
What about the other two gentlemen from India, Pakistan? Okay, I see the India professor raise up his hand. What about the Pakistan guest?
Obviously, yes.
Do you agree that our goal is about peace? If you agree, please raise up your hand and let our viewers see. Everyone. We still have the one in the middle, the two of them from India and Pakistan that I haven't seen the hands being raised so far. Very interesting situations over there. So let me start by asking you there, Professor Nalapat. Is that a storm in the teacup? Or that is the beginning of something much more devastating to come? What's your assessment?
Well, I'd like to say that I don't believe it's going to be, quote-unquote, much more devastating. The fact is that we have had this problem in Kashmir for quite a while now, as you correctly said, several decades, and yet over the last few decades, India has grown at a fairly substantial rate, and we are poised to grow at an even faster rate. So no, it's not going to be it's not going to be a disaster, but certainly it is a problem and it needs to be solved. And the problem is there are about 22 UN designated terror groups operating out of Pakistan. So I think it's very important for all of us to understand that we cannot allow any terror group to set up in anybody's territory on whatever excuse or whatever reason.
Okay.
I think this is very important.
All right, Mr. Gu, Professor Nalapat from India certainly have observed his time in his argument. I hope it's the same with you, Mr. Gu. Go ahead. Mr. Gu, can you hear me?
Oh, you're asking me. Okay. Let me just begin with complimenting the professor. How blatantly has he lied through his teeth? I'm really surprised. Perhaps he doesn't distinguish between Afghanistan and Pakistan when he says that there are 22 designated UN designated terror groups operating out of Pakistan. I think please stop misleading the world. Yes, there are problems. There have been problems in the past, and the Pakistan government has been trying to take care of that slowly, gradually, with a lot of socio-political dimensions, problems inside Pakistan. But in this particular case, even when the Indians began this aggression, that was also without any substantive evidence, something that happens 125-30 kilometers away from the borders, and this instantly blamed on Pakistan. So I think India unnecessarily, probably they were looking for a dumping place to deflect from their own failures and again blame everything on Pakistan. So I think this has been very unfortunate.
Professor He, of course, you are coming from a perspective as an observer. These two gentlemen are very civilized gentlemen, and they also make their arguments in a very civilized way, but certainly you see a big difference in their opinions, Professor He.
Oh yes, it's understandable to hear both of the opinions. But to my observation, I think anti-terror is the one thing. But if those conflicts, especially those military confrontation between the two countries, that's another issue. So in this case, we have seen that those, of course, lots of Indian soldiers becoming casualty from terror attack, and we see the Indian side make another airstrike to the Pakistan side. So, but not specifically targeting to some those terror group they claimed. So sometimes those, retaliation goes beyond those anti-terror, and eventually make those conflicts becoming wider and wider and escalated to a higher level. Eventually, that will damage these two countries' relationship. And eventually, cause too much those even civilians casualties, like we have seen from those TV, those things. So I think that's two things now mixing together.
All right. Well, everybody have already stated their opinion. We're going to leave it to our audience to judge what is going on exactly there, have their own conclusion. But one thing is very important, that is both India and Pakistan are nuclear states. If there were any further escalation of tensions between the two countries, there probably could be much horrific result as things goes on. So, Professor Nalapat, how to prevent escalation of tensions? Let's just everybody talk about your own part. From Indians' perspective, how can you do in order to reduce tensions? And Mr. Gu, you're going to talk about what Pakistan should do in order to reduce tensions, okay? Everybody has your own responsibilities. Professor Nalapat, you go first.
Sure.
Thank you.
Look, I'd like to say that the United States and the Soviet Union had several times more nuclear weapons, have several times more nuclear weapons than India and Pakistan does. I frankly believe there is almost zero chance of a nuclear war breaking out of the subcontinent for a simple reason that both countries know it is going to be an extremely deadly blow to their futures. So I don't see that happening at all. This entire concept of a nuclear war, some American scholars and some others have kept on trying to say that tomorrow, day after, there'll be a nuclear conflict. They have collected large amounts of money to do research on how to prevent a nuclear war. Look, the generals in Pakistan, as well as their counterparts in India, they're rational people, and they know the horrors of nuclear war. They know the horrors of nuclear winter. So one thing I can tell you, I don't believe this propaganda that India and Pakistan are on the verge of nuclear war. I wrote this in 2001, 2002, and again 2 days ago. That this is, in my view, absolute propaganda. It's scare tactics.
Okay, Mr. Gul, from Pakistan's perspective, what can you do in order to reduce tensions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with the professor that this is just mere Western propaganda to talk of a nuclear flashpoint. You know, when China and India went to conflict in Doklam last year or a couple of years ago, nobody talked about a possible nuclear war. So I think it's a mere motivated propaganda, and I think Pakistan has been trying from day one, the last 5-6 months. Prime Minister Imran Khan has repeatedly offered talks, dialogue, to find a way out of these relations full of tension, mistrust. I think we need to basically shake hands again and agree to keep discussing rather than embedding the narratives in old evidence, in old acrimony. This will not take us anywhere. We really have to look forward and perhaps discuss mutually as to how we can extricate ourselves from this acrimonious relationship.
Okay. I also want to ask the two gentlemen one question as well, because geopolitics has been evolving, that we all know, in the world, in this region too. As a result of the recent conflict, will the two sides become too aware of the potential conflict that they would make extra effort in the geopolitical attempts for the future? Would that be a danger that you see as an intellectual? Mr. Gul, you go first.
Well, I think Pakistan has to do take a number of steps as far as the non-state actors are concerned. Those who have been instrumental in the Kashmir insurgency in the past. For the past 3-4 years, space has shrunken on them. A number of administrative steps have been taken, and Pakistan needs to take even more steps to satisfy India and other people who are concerned about the breakout of more hostilities. And India shall also have to, I think, be a little more pragmatic, more restrained, and understand the complexities that are involved with counter and de-radicalization and the complete neutralization of the non-state actors.
Professor Nalapat, from India's perspective, is playing with geopolitics one of the options after you see tensions build up over the past few weeks between the two countries? How much danger is there for that?
Well, actually, Prime Minister Modi invited Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif of Pakistan and the other SAARC Prime Ministers for his inauguration. He came to Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's child's wedding. So the fact of the matter is that look at India and Bangladesh. There was a time not long ago when Bangladesh would not allow Indian lorries and trucks and buses to cross Bangladesh. We would not allow Bangladeshi lorries to cross. Bangladesh would not buy Indian electricity. They said, oh, it's Hindu electricity, as though electricity had a religion. But today, India and Bangladesh are trading. The buses, trucks are passing each other's territory, and there is a very warm relationship all of a sudden. The fact is that India and Pakistan will both have substantial economic benefits if they work together. And I would like to say the core problem is actually terrorism. And this is an enemy of both countries. Pakistan itself is having a major amount of problem because of terrorism. So again, I would like to stress, look, please don't separate terrorism from anything else, because terrorism is the core issue. And I would like to say the international community will be with every country that resolutely fights terrorism.
All right. Professor He, once again, as an observer, your thought?
Oh yes, there's no doubt that to build a good relationship between Pakistan and India, that will be helpful and beneficial not only for the two countries, also for the whole of the countries in that region. But the key issue here is how to deal with those terror issues. So when those tragedy happened towards those Indian soldiers, so I fully agree with those proposals coming from the Pakistan side. They are saying the first thing, the utmost thing is to join the investigation, to make it clear who made that and where they are hiding. And then after that investigation, maybe to do those kind of like attack or like some kind of those measures being taken.
All right.
But without those, make clear first, and then you make those two countries' relationship becoming this kind of tension building. I don't think it's the right way forward.
What about that proposal coming from Professor He, for example, from China? Investigation, joint investigation, and the first step towards solving the problem together. We have only less than 3 minutes left from both of you, each for 1.5 minutes, please. Mr. Gu.
Well, I think, India and other countries shall have to realize that terrorism is not acceptable to anybody, nor to Pakistan or to India. And also the other reality is that the way Al-Qaeda split into several regional franchises, similarly, the non-state actors that had been operating out of Pakistan until a few years ago, they have also led to the creation of a local terrorist or militant outfits, and now this is a homegrown indigenous militancy that India is facing, and India is simply hiding behind, trying to hide behind allegations by pointing to Pakistan and not realizing that there is something that the Kashmiri youth itself is leading, and I would say the Kashmir remains the core issue.
Okay, Professor Nalapat, 1.5 minutes left for you as well. Solutions?
Well, I'd like to say that I've been to Kashmir many times. About 15% of the state has this kind of problem. You don't see it in Jammu, you don't see it in Kargil, you don't see it in Ladakh, you don't see it in most of the state. The reality is that yes, now so far as this particular horrible attack at Pulwama was concerned, which caused this recent tension, the Jaish-e-Mohammad chief, Masood Azhar, who lives and is active in Pakistan, openly said that yes, we did it. He acknowledged it. So I'm not entirely sure what more proof is needed when the perpetrator of the attack himself says, yes, we did it, and we are proud to have done it. So the reality situation is we cannot run away from tough action, because let me tell you one thing, if terror hits one country today, it can hit another country tomorrow.
Okay.
That's why we must all combine against terror. So far as Afghanistan is concerned, and my friend from Pakistan talked about Afghanistan, both Iran and Afghanistan have been the victims of terror from groups that have been operating in Pakistan.
All right.
So has India. Iran has got a problem, Afghanistan has got a problem, India has got a problem.
Running out of time, and there are a lot of accusations traded between the two sides, we can tell. Whether those are facts or not, it's up to our viewers to have their own conclusion. But for now, I want to thank both of you for joining us, together with the Chinese guest, Professor He. But I would hope even further, next time if we talk, there will be more solutions rather than just pure arguments. But for now, thank you so much for being with us. Imtiaz Gul, Madhav Nalapat, and He Wenping. Thank you. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Insight CGTN into your search engine or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Insight team, thanks for watching, and tune in again next time for insights across China and around the world. Good night.